तनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We can go to the first dhyana shloka, which we are in the middle of. So we can chant that, and you can chant that with me, and then we can just do that. Maunavyākhyā prakatita parabrahma tattvai yuvanam Varshishthante vasadrishi ganairavrtam brahmanishthaihi Acharyendram karakalita chinmudramanandarupam Svatmaramam muditavadanam Dakshinamurtimide. Dakshinamurtim ide, we saw that yesterday. Ide, I worship. Ida, Idanam is worshipping. So, worshipping, I worship Dakshinamurti. And then, and all the rest of the words that end in which is the second case of Akaranta Pullinga Shabdaha. What does that mean? That words that end in a, masculine words, and when they take on the form of that means it is the object of the worship here. So what do you worship is answered in Dakshinamurtim, that is im, because it's a ikaranta shabda, but all the other qualifying words as to what this Dakshinamurti is and who this Dakshinamurti is and why should I worship this Dakshinamurti is all given very beautifully, and we have already seen the first line, the one by whom the maunavyākhyā, by whose silent exposition the ultimate truth of the self was elucidated and was unpacked like a suitcase, completely, laid bare. How silently, and this looks like a source of confusion, and it doesn't just look like a source of confusion. In fact, it is a source of confusion for a number of people who are studying Vedanta. Forget people who are studying Vedanta, it's a source of confusion for a number of teachers of Vedanta also. Once one person, one Mahamandaleshwar, meaning some big acharya from the one of the ashrams in North India had come to Rishikesh, and he came to our ashram there, and Pujya Swamiji said, okay, please share something that please talk to the students. And we were all eagerly waiting, and then all he could say was, if you know, you don't talk, maunavyākhyā. And if you talk, therefore what? You must not know. Yeah, this is some kind of a funny therefore logic where the tasmat or therefore doesn't come in the picture at all. There is no therefore at all. And so this is, this is a kind of a funny logic by which, one is told that if you know, you shouldn't talk. Okay. Then he proceeded to talk for 2 hours. What do we conclude? This is silly. This is silly. And so, therefore, this is a kind of an abiding area of confusion for Vedantins. Because especially people who are, bhaktas of the, Ramana Maharshi's sampradaya, they also, say that you must not talk. Ramana Maharshi did not talk, but Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi did talk when it was necessary. Yes, he was generally silent, but that was according to his, how his prarabdha unfolded. But, when he taught and he composed things, and those are all with the help of words. So what are these words? Number one, we have to see. And then why Lord Dakshinamurthy, silently taught, what is the indication of that? That also we have to see. So maunavyākhyā, it's a nice paradox. And Vedanta operates upon a series of paradoxes. In fact, that the whole Vedanta Shastra rests on numerous paradoxes. I mean, too numerous to talk about. First of all, we have a problem. There is a problem. What is the problem? I am in samsara. The person, the jiva, is convinced I am in samsara. Aham samsarin. That's what samsarin means. I am in samsara. So I am a samsar in. And therefore what? So therefore, I am subject to grief. Shochami. I am subject to fear. Bibhe. I am afraid. I grieve. And then, and the grieving, fearful person comes to and the grief and the fear, even the person doesn't know Vedanta, still they know that it is because of this duality. Somehow they understand that. Because, there are so many other things to be afraid of. And there are so many other things in the universe that cause sorrow, starting with, my own body, which is aging all the time, and right up to the stars in the firmament. Because why the stars? Because this nakshatra in which I am born is not good. Shani, Saturn is always in a difficult place. And then what else? The Venus, Shukra, the benign auspicious planet is what? Is always, not blessing me. And then Guru, the big fellow, Guru means what? The planet Jupiter, blessing planet, because of whom the correct kind of thinking is there, and because of whom all kinds of, what's the word for it? All kinds of blessings are there in the form of intellect, proper thinking, proper actions, the ability to follow dharma. All this is incumbent upon the placement of Jupiter. And where is this Jupiter? In the wrong place. So therefore, right from the body, which I am not very fond of, to the stars, one has cause for grief. And so therefore what? And so therefore, even though one might not understand Vedanta, one knows that the cause for grief, fear, which are the mainstay of samsara, are because of the fact that there are other things in the universe which are the cause of this sorrow, which are the cause of this grief. And so then what? What should I do now? So therefore what? This, I need to approach a guru who seems to be smiling, who seems to not be affected. And somewhere I have heard that listening to the Shastra is going to help, And so this is the cause of samsara. And then one goes to the guru to remove this samsara. To remove this duality, you go to the guru who says what? Who doesn't give you swimming lessons how to swim in samsara, but instead who, sips the water of samsara. The ocean of samsara is sipped by the teacher. Is sipped by the grace, the warmth of the teacher, the warm, loving grace of the teacher, and the warm, loving glance of the teacher. The glance is pramana here. The glance is the ability to communicate through words, interestingly. what? The truth of yourself that is beyond words. This is the paradox here. And so, even though one goes for how to negotiate in samsara, how to get, get along with other people, how to not be affected. And what does the warm glance of the loving, compassionate glance of the teacher, which is as good as the teaching, dries up the ocean of samsara. When the ocean of samsara dries up, everything that it sustains, what does it sustain? The seaweed of doubt. Always coming under the spell of doubt and then getting whatever, caught and trapped in doubt. And then what? The seaweed of doubt, the sharks of danger and fear, and then, the sharks of danger, the sharks of fear, and then the eddies and the whirlpools of, sorrow, and then the alligators that catch, the alligators of, involvement, and the raga dvesha, in the form of all kinds of tsunamis, etc., anger, fear, kama, krodha, all the sea world, the oceanic world is sustained by the ocean. When that ocean is dried up by the warm, compassionate glance, which is, translated as the teaching of the teacher. And then, so everything that the ocean sustains also goes. If there is no ocean, how can the alligator and the shark survive? It cannot survive. It is gone. It is totally gone. And so therefore, this is the teaching here. And so therefore what? This is one of the paradoxes. And the second paradox in Vedanta is that, you cannot, this is one of the paradoxes. And, that you go to the teacher to fix up your world, and then, the teacher says there is no world, so therefore it is not needing to be fixed up. Oh really, there is no world? No. What is there? All that is there is you. Only me. Yeah. But what is that you? That you is not an only, that you is not a lonely you. It is kaivalya, kevala. You alone are. Alone doesn't mean lonely. Because that you that is going to be unfolded is equated to Ishvara, the cause of the universe. I am Ishvara. Yes, you are Ishvara. Oh, then why am I crying? Why should I answer all the questions? You answer this question. Why are you crying? This is what the whole thing is. Then the another paradox is that, in order to learn about yourself, who is the object of this knowledge? You. And who is the subject? You. Another so-called contradiction. How can the subject and object be the same thing? Usually the object of knowledge is separate from the subject of knowledge. So if I want to know about this, recording device which is working today, yesterday I could not see the red light. Today, I could see the red, I figured out how to make it work. So, what did I do? I had not pressed the power button. I had assumed that if it was connected to the computer, it would come alive. And, so I had to learn about this, correct? So I had to learn about this because it was in storage and it had not been operated. And the human mind, being what it is, I had to reorient myself to see that certain things had to be done in order to make it work. So now the object of knowledge is what? Recording device. And who is the knower? The knower is aham, I, the atma here, I. And what is the object of knowledge? Anatma. This is the only kind of knowledge we know. We know, when we say knowledge, there is always, kartri karma virodha, there is always a subject object separation. So the subject wants to know about all the objects in the universe because information is power, and the more I know, the more powerful I feel. And the pramata, the knower, is always in place, gloating over every silly thing that it knows. But here suddenly I'm confronted with what? one more kind of ignorance. What do you mean one more kind of ignorance? It's the only ignorance, okay? It presents itself as one more ignorance because that is the avarana, that is the nature of the ignorance itself. So suddenly I am confronted not just with object ignorance, but with the subject ignorance, in the sense that I don't know myself. And so therefore what do? And here is another strange paradox. In order to know about myself, I go to a teacher, often a stranger. Yeah. How much can you know about a teacher? You don't know anything. You Google a guru. In fact, there are certain websites, there are certain websites where you can find out the authenticity of the teacher. There is, I forgot what the name of it is. So there are certain websites where you can see what this teacher that you're going to study with is. What is this person? You can see, you can find out, and then you can if they are authentic or not. But still, this is Google. This is some Google who is going to Google itself is strange, because how do you know that Google is giving the right information? How do you know that that website is not biased, or that the people on the website, the so-called authentic teachers who have managed to get into that website, are not paying that website to be on that website? How do you know that? You don't know that. So yet another paradox is that in order to know about yourself, you have to go and submit to a complete stranger, and that too online, sight unseen. You have to take a quantum leap and then go and say, Adhi Bhagavo Brahma, oh revered one, please teach me about about myself, in the form of Brahman. So the whole of Vedanta is just paradox. It's just, the whole thing is paradox. And then how does the teacher teach? The teacher cannot, teach anything new. Very interesting. It is ever new. That is why we saw yesterday the last word in the first line, which is what? Yuva. Yuvanam. Yuva means ever young. The teaching is ever fresh. And so Lord Dakshinamurthy, who is embodying the teacher here, the Adi Guru, is always ever young, ever fresh. Why is it ever fresh? Because there may be so many people in the room. It speaks to you and you and you. That's why the Sahana Vavatu Shanti mantra that we chant before is what? Is always in the dual. So there may be so many people. It's always one-on-one, because it speaks to you. It speaks to you specifically, and that is why you are here, and that is how the teaching operates. And so how does the teacher teach? The teacher doesn't teach anything new, because I cannot tell you, what, you exist. If I were to say that, then what would happen? You will think something is wrong with this teacher. Yesterday she made sense, today something happened, Because you don't need to go to a teacher to find out that you exist, correct? Because, this is my famous question. My famous question in every Vedanta course, in every Vedanta class. What is that? Ensuing from one's existence. What is that? Can anybody say? Many of you have taken classes before. What is that question I always ask? Yeah, are you here? Are you here? If I say, are you here? Then what will you say? Yes. And how is that yes said? It's a resounding yes, where there is no doubt, no samshaya, no viparyaya, no, any other possibility is not there. No doubt, no vagueness. I think I'm here, but I just woke up, so give me a few minutes and then get back to me. No. The fact that you are aware that you just woke up, that means you are here. And then there is no doubt, there is no vagueness, and there is no error. Sorry, I told you I was not here, but I am here. There is no need to apologize and come back with a different answer. That which is so certain that I am, is what? Is the self-shining, self-existent, self-effulgent, self-referenced reality. And on this self-evident reality of the fact of your awareness of your existence, the whole Vedanta Shastra is based. It is hinged on that. If the self were not self-revealing, there is nothing to say about the self. Then it will be yet one more conjecture, like the Nayayikas. You must exist. Why? Because when I pinch you, you say, ouch. Correct? We'll have to talk like the logicians. We'll have to talk like the Vaisheshikas, Nayayikas, because this is what the whole thing rests on, some funny logic. So, but this is beyond logic, because this is something you know with certainty. And when you say, I know I am, because the I am, your own existence is hinging upon your recognition of it. And that is what we say knowledge, awareness, So your existence is useless if you cannot be the witness of your existence. What is the use of your existence? It's just like a rock existing. Rock may be very wonderful. It may be very useful. It may be doing something on the side of the road. It may be just, people may be coming and saying, oh, what a nice rock. But it is unable to say for itself, you know what, I rock. It's not able to say that. But you have that ability. You have that total self-awareness. Awareness means what? I am aware of myself. That awareness is jnanam. Jnanam simply means I know. And how do you know? Without using a means of knowledge. You cannot say I see that I exist. I hear that I exist. I can sense through the sense of touch that I exist. No. Without recourse to any pramana, means of knowledge. You know that you are. And that you are is undeniable. And that undeniable I am, when you say I am, you say I know I am. Which includes I don't know how to operate this recorder. So this ignorance is also included in the knowledge, because in the knowledge of the I, because when that ignorance is what? Is recognized, it becomes all knowledge. I know that I don't know. Another paradox. And so this kind of a person goes to the teacher. How is the teacher going to teach? The teacher cannot say, you are existent. That is foolish, because you already know you are existent, and so therefore there is no need to say you are existent. You already know that, and therefore what? So therefore the teacher has to say, you know what? You are, you are, and then you don't know exactly the next question. Are you here? Yes. Who are you? You don't know. And so that who are you is what is talked by the teacher. And then who is this I? That next question. I know I am. Oh, what are you? I am what? Samsari. I am very, very sorry. I am subject to guilt. I am subject to hurt. You see, the I am is now joining all those ingredients in samsara. Subject to hurt, subject to guilt, subject to fear, subject to, sorrow, subject to afflictions. And that is what, has to be separated. That I am has to be separated from all these notions which contribute to becoming an ocean of fear and sorrow. So the ocean of sorrow has to be dismissed as a notion by the teacher, deploying the words of the Upanishad given to us by Lord Dakshinamurty. That is what it is, because Dakshinamurty is the Adi Guru, Lord in the form of the teacher. Because, why knowledge is infallible. That is why it's coming from the Lord. If it came from some, some fellow who is who you see every day and who forgets, where they have, kept this or that, and forgets their own name sometimes, then the knowledge is, flawed, because, the person who you see every day, very easy to take for granted. Even with a teacher this happens. That's why, one prays to Lord Dakshinamurty to keep that, newness. That Shraddha is based on that newness. So Shraddha means a feeling of, revered, a reverence. That Shraddha is reverence, and that reverence is what is kept, up front, so that whatever is taught is always ever fresh, ever new, and ever, desirable. And so how will the teacher teach? First the teacher has to, put samsara in a new light. So what is this samsara? Ocean of affliction. Ayyo, this ocean of affliction is but a notion of affliction. This is elucidated, this is talked about very nicely by the teacher. Through the words of the Shastra, the teacher is just a mouthpiece for the Shastra. Shastra means that which has come from the Lord, that which has come from Dakshinamurti, that teaching in the form of the Upanishad, which, which destroys samsara by pointing out the truth of yourself as Ishvara. Brahma gamayati, by taking you to Brahman. Taking again is within quotes, because who is being taken? The one who is already Brahman is being as though taken to Brahman. Taken means, because one was taken with samsara, and one is taken away from samsara and made to see that one is already not a samsari, one was never a samsari. This is what it is, Brahma Gamanam. So this is what the Upanishad does. What is the Upanishad? That which is given to us by Lord Dakshinamurti. That is what the Upanishad is. And then how does it take you to Brahman? How does it take you to the vast, limitless, fearless, sorrowless, afflictionless, timeless, ageless, nameless, formless truth of yourself? How does it do that? By dismissing all the notions that are there. And this dismissal is part of the teaching, and that dismissal is, has an abiding presence in the Upanishads and in all the works of the Vedanta, and it is famously known, in a short form as Neti Neti, Na iti na iti. I am afflicted by sorrow, na iti, not so, not in this manner, not so. I am afraid, na iti. I am tired, na iti. I am bored, na iti. I am useless, na iti. I am unloved, na iti. You see, neti, neti, neti. So that is part, that is one half of the Upanishadic statements. And the other half is what? Sukham, Shantam, and then, Niravayavam, and all these things, that which is the Sanatanam, that which is of the nature of happiness, that which is free of all disturbance, that which is not, having any kinds of, that which is impartite, no parts, and that which is, free of all kinds of, anything that you say. And then that which is Sanatana, that which is ever the same, unchanging. All these things are positively put, changeless, we have to say. Unchanging again would be negating that. So changeless, Shanta, all these things, these are positive statements in the Upanishads, which are just after dismissing the notion, then they are just pointing towards that which is the truth of oneself. And that pointing here, listen carefully, is maunavyākhyā. That is what it is. So the dismissal is one half of the teaching, more than one half, because there is a lot of things to dismiss. So many billions, 7 billion people in the universe, and each one has at least more than one notion of oneself. And so even if you say 2 per head, so that is 14 billion notions. I mean, there'll be a lot more than that, but for a start, that many notions have to be dismissed. because each head is unique and it comes with strange notions. And some of them are of course common. I'm an idiot is very common, but then the rest of them, they are all over the place, and all those notions have to be dismissed. This is not easy. And so there's a lot of neti statements. And then what? Iti, in fact, you are this alone. Sukham, Shantam, when you say, Nitya, Buddha, Shuddha, Mukta, Atma, you are Nitya, you are eternal, not eternally sad, you are eternal, you are that which is immortal, not subject to death, you are limitless, you are timeless. Body is subject to death, mind is subject to going. That's why the only thing we can say about the mind is what? Never mind. That's the only thing you can say. So all these things that are subject to death, they are not you. So what are you? You are that which is, the truth of Ishvara. You are that which is the content of Ishvara. You are that which is the cause of the universe. And what is this cause of the universe? That cause of the universe is that awareness which you are. These are indicatory statements which are called and we'll have more of a chance to talk about that. But for now, this much is enough. These are indicatory statements talked about in Sanskrit as Dakshinamurthy. Lakshana, indication. Why Lakshana? Why not directly say you are this? Because you don't need to say, you cannot say you are this directly. Why? Because you can describe a rock, you can describe something even which doesn't have form, like space and time can be described. But you cannot describe yourself because when you describe yourself, how are you going to do it? You have to say, I am this much, my height is, 5 feet so many inches, 6 foot so many inches. How are you going to say that? When you say that, you are not describing you are describing the body. Oh, I feel peaceful. You are describing the mind. I feel restless. You are describing the mind. I am hungry. You are describing prana. I see very well. You are describing the sense organs. You are not describing you. Because that you, which is self-aware, Atma cannot be objectified. When you try to objectify it, what happens? Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha. Taittiriya Upanishad says, the mind and the words, speech, are great friends. Hand in hand they went skipping along, trying to face a challenge and come back victorious from this challenge. What was the challenge? I'm going to describe the I. I'm going to describe the Atma. I'm going to talk about it. Speech said, mind said, I'm going to categorize it, and then you be my mouthpiece and talk about it, because I cannot talk about it. Therefore, you are under my employ. We both are great friends. I visualize you speak, and we'll come back and tell what is the color of the Atma, what is the size of the Atma, Parimana, and what is the, what is the weight of the Atma, and what is the, what is the function of the Atma. What does it do in its spare times? What are its hobbies? And then what is the gender of the Atma? This is sounding like a, what all you put on a dating website, like shadi.com and all this, people put all these things. What are the hobbies? Cycling, cycling where? In the waters of samsara. Yeah, going round and round. Cycling. And then, and then some of the eco buffs will say recycling, meaning what? I like to keep coming back again and again after every janma, because I don't know what else to do. So, whether it is cycling or recycling, these are all under hobbies. Reading about what? About anatma, of course. Reading, writing, cooking, cooking in samsara, in the hot, boiling in the hot water of samsara. That is what it is. And so then they'll put all these things, and then, and these are people who are rebels. They don't believe in horoscope matching. They don't believe in, parents looking for the match. They want to do it themselves. So they are proactive and put all these things in the, marriage.com, shadi.com, all these websites. And then what? At least for us, the horoscope means what? It is a blueprint of Bhagavan. So we put it in front of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is doing the matching because the stars are Bhagavan, the karma phala is Bhagavan. The horoscope is nothing but a manifestation of Bhagavan. And then we have the knowledge of astrology, which is also Bhagavan. And we are looking to see how these two people might, live together. But here, the person is very modern, not traditional, and not orthodox. And so they want to, doff off all that, and then they just want to go and, go to put their profiles in the website. And then what? One is at the mercy of the computer, because then the computer, which matches, the computer is what matches, this person and that person. So these descriptions are important when you want vyavahara, when you want to get along with somebody, that to lifelong. Those descriptions matter, to a certain extent. Because, you have to, somehow you have to make a start, like, okay, what do we have in common, and then this is important to a certain extent. But then in terms of knowing oneself, what kind of description can the self have? The Upanishad is silent on the issue, and this silence is what is talked about here by, the Dhyana Shloka as maunavyākhyā. It's not that only in the deep meditation of silence the self comes out to play. No, the self is in play. The self is playing all the time. The self is playing whether you are afflicted, the unafflicted self is playing, as it were, is in play. Whether you are upset, whether there is thought, the presence of the self is there in every thought. As the thinker is the content of the thinker, and the presence of the self is there in every non-thought as that which is observing the silence. So you cannot say that silence is Atma, and therefore what is speech? So whenever you are talking, you are anatma, you are not Atma. That is not correct. And this is a mistake I'm spending a little more time over this, because this is a mistake that is normally made in even the most, in the finest of Vedanta circles. So we have to be extremely careful here. What is the meaning of maunavyākhyā? Maunavyākhyā means that which is, talked about through indicatory words, indicatory sentences, and those indications just point to the Atma, which is recognized after the notions are dismissed. It's just like the snake and rope. What kind of rope? Rope snake. So there is a rope lying there, and then over which you make an aropa. That's why it's called rope. So you have an aropa. And what is that aropa? You have an aropa of snake. Aropa means superimposition. So there is a rope lying on the ground, and then you pass by the rope when, in a dark, situation, in twilight, not enough light to see something is curvy is lying there. Something which is small and curved, 3 bends it has, is lying there. You see that, but you don't have enough light to ascertain what it is. So you go closely, and the cell phone comes in handy, because behind every cell phone is what? Not camera, flashlight. So you shine the light on that object from far, because you are afraid to go close to it. And then you say, first you say what? This is not a snake. Neti, neti, not a snake, not a snake. No scales, no sliminess, not a snake. So the sliminess is removed. The scales are removed from your eyes first, and then from the rope, which is manifesting as a snake due to, due to bad light. Not enough, insufficient light. And then what do you say? Then you say, this is not, it doesn't have fangs, neti, neti, neti. And then what is it? Iti, rope. Yeah. And that rope is pointed out. How? By the dismissal of the non-snake. By showing it as non-snake. And the similar thing is happening to the Atma. Atma is known. I know I am. But don't ask me the next question. What are you? Who are you? Because that next question is fraught with wrong identifications. There is a mistake made on the I, because I take myself to be the body with which I am associated. The body, the mind, the senses, people, loved ones, people around me, children, etc. House. I take myself to be connected to, or in fact I identify with my possessions. I identify with places that I visit, and like my house, my place, my native place, all these things. And so these identifications are all finite and limited, and these identifications are the cause of sorrow. And so neti neti statements in the Upanishad dismiss those identifications. And then what are you already shines. There is no need to even say it, because as soon as you say it, it is just like the mind and the speech going to conquer the Atma. And then what do? They come back with a hanging head. Their head is hanging in shame. They were not able to objectify the I. Why? Because the I is not an object. It is a subject, which is not subject ever to any kind of objectification. And so that's why it is maunavyākhyā. Because when you really want to know, what is this I want to know in one word, one sentence. Lord Dakshinamurthy is silent. Why? Because you already are. The one who is wanting to know is the I. The pramata is I, the content of the pramata is I, the prameya, the objects that is there in the universe, all the objects that are there that you think are out to get you is I alone. Prameya, non-separate from I. Pramata, the knower is I. The objects of knowledge, I. And pramana, the means of knowledge like sight, hearing, etc., deployed to know the I is also I. So what is this I? Am I pramata? No. You just said pramata is I. Correct. But I am not pramata. No. So you are neither pramata, nor prameya, nor pramana. You are neither the thinker, nor the knower, nor the object of knowledge, nor the means of knowledge. Yet you are limitless enough to support, to manifest as the thinker, knower, to manifest as the thought, object of knowledge, to manifest as the means of knowledge, without being either knower, nor known, nor means of knowledge. What are you going to do now? It's just like an ocean. It has many waves. Let's say it has 3 waves. Is this wave the ocean? Yes, it is not. The wave is ocean. Is that with the wave number 1? Let's say pramata wave, the knower wave. Is that the ocean? Yes, it is the ocean. What about the object wave? Because one wave is making fun of the other wave. Yeah, that's also the ocean. What about the third wave, which is the means of knowledge wave? Let us say a third wave representing the means of knowledge, sight, hearing, etc. Is that also the ocean? Yes. So wave number 1, ocean. Wave is ocean. If you touch the wave, you have touched the ocean. Wave number 2, definitely ocean. Wave number 3, what's wrong with you? That's also the ocean. Okay. So is the ocean the wave? No. Ocean is not wave. Wave is ocean. So what is ocean? Ocean is that nameless, limitless, formless upadhi. Yeah, upadhi here means that, an as though container. Yeah, an as though container, which, which is there, it's a form of manifestation. It is nameless, it is formless, it is huge. It is huge enough to sustain so many waves. Object wave and the knower wave, known wave, etc. But without being any one of them. So to you, the Atma is subject to is subject to what? Is large enough, limitless enough to sustain the knower known difference, subject object as though contradiction, and the means of knowledge. All these separations that you see, it's all you. You are big enough to sustain all of them without being any one of them. So that is what is meant by maunavyākhyā. So much words to talk about, maunavyākhyā. One thing, one thing alone. So many words to just talk about this one thing, which is nameless, formless, wordless, you. So the one that is maunavyākhyā prakatita parabrahma tattvaha, Dakshinamurthy, who elucidated, this is yet one more paradox, who taught about that, which is impossible to teach, is really impossible to teach. This is another paradox. How are you going to teach about you that is not an object? It seems very impossible to teach. It is impossible to teach about you as an object. And of course, it is impossible to teach about you as a subject. And therefore, maunavyākhyā, because through an ingenious method of the pedagogy of negation, and then what? Pointing towards words, indicatory words of who you are, Shanta, etc., Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam, all these words, the person is repatriated with their nature. Very interesting. Yet this is the final paradox, so to speak. The ultimate paradox is to, is to wordlessly convey for, that knowledge which depends all on words. What are you going to do? This is so much fun. Yeah. So Parabrahma Tattva, the ultimate, the most sacred, the most exalted truth of the self was expounded wordlessly by who? This is what it is. Yuvanam. The teacher is, here, young, and the teacher is nothing but the Shastra. The Shastra is young because the Shastra is timeless. 10,000-year-old history we have of teacher teaching the student, student then learning and then becoming the teacher, teaching yet one more disciple, who becomes the teacher, who becomes the disciple. This parampara continues. And so therefore, Yuva, the teacher is new because each time you hear it, it is new. Each time the new student hears it, it is new, it is new, it is new. Yeah, who knew, right? Therefore, that's one reason why the teacher is ever young. And the second reason the teacher is ever young is because you see, we see all these articles these days that the age is in the heart, the age is in the kind of life that you lead. Because if people who are, stressed out, who are having a lot of things, problems, what happens is that, they may be young, by, biological age, or chronological age, and then what? An emotional, mental age. That's a very different thing. So, the stress makes one age faster. Age faster means what? One is constantly worried, and the worry causes the blood pressure to rise perhaps. The worry causes, certain other things. One is not mindful, one becomes careless, there is no self-care. All these things happen. So this is all caused by worries. And so the worries are afflictions, and so samsara. And so therefore what? So therefore they say, have an attitude of gratitude. Because everything is given. Oh, what is given? Only troubles are given. No, the courage to surmount those troubles also given. Given. And what is given is beneficial. And because of what is given, I am able to do so many things. At least I have a mind. Even if I'm only using to complain, at least I have a mind. And then you see that the mind is not just capable of complaining. The mind is able to revel in the truth of oneself. The mind is able to listen to this knowledge. The mind is able to pursue sadhanas like meditation, all these things. And so the mind is a fine, beautiful thing to have. And so the attitude of gratitude, is able to scale back those years. What kind of years? Those mental, emotional years through which one has aged early. One says that. You see articles about gratitude. You see articles about compassion. When one is when one goes against the grain, and against the grain of feeling and compassionate, one is going against the grain and acting compassionately. This feeling is mithya, it is not real, because your swarupa is compassion, and when you act it out, you see that the uncompassion was an interloper, an imposter, so to speak. You are actually all compassion. So when you act against the feelings, against the immediate ragadveshas, the strong prejudices and the strong, what's the word for it, and the strong infrastructure of the surviving jiva, the one who has to fight to get things, the one who has to demand attention, the one who wants to seize the universe and control everything, that controlling jiva, when you go against the grain of these kinds of sentiments, you may be chronologically old, you may be chronologically 80, 90, doesn't matter, the heart is young, because, this knowledge is ever young. That's the second meaning. So Lord Dakshinamurti is therefore very youthful. And then the second line, the second line is what? Varshishtante vasadrishi ganaihi avritam brahmanishtaihi. So who is this Dakshinamurti? First line, the one who is, the one who is maunavyākhyā prakatita parabrahma tattvaha yuvanaha, and then yuva, and then the second line talks about who this Dakshinamurti is surrounded by. Who is this Lord Dakshinamurti surrounded by? Friends and family. And if they are friends and family, what is this Vedanta family? Who does it consist of? Who does Dakshinamurti's family consist of? Kula. So what kind of a Guru Kula, is the Lord Dakshinamurti's Guru Kula is the second line. We will see that, we will see that in detail when tomorrow. So don't feel disheartened, if you feel like, all that we have done in 2 classes is 1 line. That's why we have a lot of time. Don't worry about it. Everything will get done. There is, in the beginning, it takes a little time to unfold things, and then, we will catch up. We have a lot of time. Don't worry. Okay? Yeah. So we are actually ahead by another reckoning, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So I will say the closing prayer, and if you have any questions, you can ask, and then we'll see each other tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Harihi Om.